Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We always like to take a closer look and, go a little deeper into some of the stuff we've been exploring together.
Yeah, exactly. And today is no different, right?
Absolutely.
Today we're talking about something I think everybody listening has been, thinking about to some degree.
Yeah.
And that is fluency in English.
Fluency in English.
And I think, the really cool thing about this deep dive is it's not even so much about how to become more fluent.
Right.
Like, what are the tips and tricks and hacks and things?
Sure.
But it's more about sort of like that deeper question of like, why not me?
Yeah. Why not me? And I think that's a really important place to start.
It is. It is.
And, in looking at all the stuff that we've got, like the articles and the personal stories and linguistic studies and things, it does seem like that's like the underlying thing.
It is
that that
like,
self-belief
yeah, the self-belief
is really kind of like the foundation, and that's something that we see come up again and again in the research as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think that's a great place for us to just kind of jump in.
Yeah.
Because I think the temptation for a lot of people is like, okay, well, I just need to, find the right app, or I need to, sign up for the right class.
Right.
But really, like we're saying, it starts with your own
mindset.
Mindset.
It really is a psychological barrier more than anything else. And, a lot of the sources were bringing up this idea of like, almost these myths
Yeah.
that people have around language learning.
Right.
And, one in particular, it's like this idea that you have to be super educated.
Right.
Or like, you have to have some sort of like
predisposition.
Yeah, predisposition, or like you're just naturally good at languages.
Right. And that's just not true.
It's just not true at all. I mean,
And that totally ties into what you were saying about like mindset.
absolutely, because that's, Dr. Carol Dweck's work on the growth mindset. Yeah.
Right. Is really, relevant here, because if you come into this whole thing with a fixed mindset, thinking like, oh, I'm just not good at languages.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
You're going to be self-limiting.
Totally. And so you're telling me like, even before I crack open a textbook, I need to work on
Your attitude.
my attitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because those myths that we were talking about,
Yeah.
like you need to be super educated or you're too old to learn a new language.
Right.
Those are all examples of a fixed mindset.
Totally. And like when we're talking about those myths, that's another thing that the source material brings up, is this idea that like you have to be perfect.
To be fluent.
Right.
And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Like one of the examples they gave was about this the CEO who built this multi-million-dollar company.
Right.
But his English grammar
Was not perfect.
was not perfect.
Yeah. But he was able to communicate his ideas effectively.
Exactly. And that's what fluency is.
And that's really, I think, the distinction that needs to be made.
Is that we're talking about effective communication. We're not talking about perfection.
Right.
And that's, I think, something that people can get really hung up on.
Oh, absolutely.
And that could be another one of those blocks
Yeah.
that prevents them from
progressing.
Yeah, from moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other one we were talking about was the age thing.
Right.
Right.
And I think, there's a lot of research about that.
Yeah. And so is there any truth to, like, it's harder to learn a language when you're older?
Well, the research is kind of mixed on that one. It's
Yeah.
like yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, it's true that children's brains are like primed for language acquisition.
Right.
When you're little.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of soak it up like a sponge.
Right.
But adults have other advantages.
Like what?
Well, we have better focus. We can concentrate better.
Right.
We have more self-discipline.
Right. We can actually, like, sit down and do the thing.
Yeah, we can actually, like, follow through with a study plan.
Right.
And we also have, like, a wider range of, learning strategies.
Right. We've learned how to learn.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We know what works for us.
Yeah.
And what doesn't.
Okay. So we've got that going for us.
We do. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was, like, the resources.
Yes.
Because, like you're saying, the internet has made it so much easier
Absolutely. It's incredible.
to learn a language.
Yeah.
Like the source material was talking about online communities, language learning apps,
Yeah.
even just like watching movies in English with subtitles,
Yeah, all sorts of things.
which I've heard people have a lot of success with.
Yeah, it can be really helpful.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity out there.
I mean, it's almost like too much opportunity.
Yeah. Like, where do you even begin?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right.
And actually, I think the source material addressed that as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like one of the things they were saying was like, you need to start with a clear goal.
Okay.
Like, why do you want to learn English?
Yeah.
What would fluency allow you to do?
Mm-hmm.
If you can answer that question,
Right.
then it helps you kind of navigate that abundance of resources.
Okay, so like if my goal is to, you know, be able to travel to, an English-speaking country,
Mm-hmm.
then I should focus on, resources that help with things like,
Travel phrases and
yeah, and how to,
how to like order food and
yeah, get
Right.
directions and things like that. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, so have that purpose in mind
yeah.
because that'll help you.
Okay, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, let's be real for a minute.
Right. Let's get down to brass tacks.
This does take work.
Yeah,
It's not just going to magically happen.
Yeah, it's not an overnight thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the source material talks about that too.
Yeah.
About the fact that, like, you need to practice.
It's like anything else, right? It's like, if you want to get in shape,
Right.
you don't just like go to the gym one time and expect to be like totally ripped.
Right.
You have to have like regular workouts,
Right.
or you have to like keep going.
Yeah. Consistency is key.
Yeah, consistency is key.
And that's the same thing with language learning.
Absolutely.
You got to practice regularly.
Yeah, you got to speak it, you got to listen to, you got to read it, you got to write it,
Right.
and you got to do it over and over and over again.
And you're going to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's another thing I love about the source material.
Yeah.
Is that they really emphasize that mistakes are not failures.
They're part of the process.
Yeah.
It's like
They're good.
they are good. They're like little signposts that say like, hey, you're pushing yourself, you're growing.
I love that.
Yeah.
And like even analyze your mistakes.
Yeah, figure out why you made them.
Right. And then try not to make them again.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes you can even laugh at them. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that.
Right.
But it's all good, It's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting that we started with this question of why not me?
Yeah.
Because I think what we've seen here is that a lot of those barriers are self-imposed.
Totally.
And if you can get that mindset right
Mm-hmm.
and take advantage of all the resources that are out there
Yeah.
and commit to practicing consistently,
Yeah.
fluency is absolutely within your reach.
It is. It really is.
So I want you to think about that. Like, picture yourself a year from now,
Mm-hmm.
confidently using your English skills.
Yeah.
What would that open up for you?
I think it's an incredible thought, isn't it?
Yeah, like what doors would that open?
Like, what would that new version of you be capable of doing? Because the journey might be tough,
Right.
but the destination is so worth it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll see you next time.
See you later.